Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ashland Select Board meeting for October 6th, 2021. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, subsection 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely following these requirements of the open meeting law. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast by WACA-TV, our local cable networks. The town of Ashland, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, is currently following the guidance from the Ashland Board of Health, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Tonight's Zoom meeting, the ID number is 864-4034-3630. The passcode is 736672. Officially open the meeting at 7:03. Good evening, everyone. Let's see what we have. Citizens participation. I'm not sure if I have anybody here in the waiting room for citizens participation, but let's see if there is anybody. Well, I'll be. He's here. Mr. DeSoni. How are you, Mark? Go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Nice spring, sort of October nights. Just got home from doing my football coaching, so I'm just rare and ready to huddle with everybody else here. I would like to thank in person, even though I did it online already, to the Historical Society when they had their short meeting, and they kept in their agenda what they wanted to do, and people wanted to talk about the new school building, and they didn't want citizen participation. So I sent in a good positive thank yous and understanding, and I got a couple of thanks mark from them. Thomas Alameda and Liz Childers responded back. So I wanted to say that about the historic, so they did it right when they came on. And the other thing is, I saw the around the clock newest edition and saw the last beam signing. Penmanship must be really good on metal, huh?
Wasn't easy.
No, but then again, it got up there in the skyline there, so people kind of look at it and say, "Who are these people?" When they get it all built up. I would like to say thank you to the board. Your last board meeting that you had on, a short board meeting, I spoke up about the school building, and I made a couple of good points. Never got rebroadcast, so I'm going to say to the select board, Michael Herbert and everybody, yes, they did their work, the planning board did their work, but it's still left a little bit of a irk inside about talking about the graveside and the tree more than what it was supposed to have been. And then the newspaper got involved, and it started to hit home saying, what are the people thinking? But then again, I said, I'm gonna leave it alone. But I'm saying to the board, thank you for listening to me. And it was worth talking at that time. Other than that, my talking for this time is now done. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark. Is there anybody else on citizens participation? Not seeing any. Let's move on, if you don't mind. If I miss somebody, I apologize. We'll get back to you on that. Okay. We have a scheduled appointment at 7:10, and we have a few minutes to go before we do that. So I would like to skip down to item number 4, which is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve as presented.
Okay, so there is a second. Okay, all those in favor, voice vote, please.
Greaves, aye.
Mitchell, aye.
Chair, aye.
Kinsman, aye.
Vignani, aye. That's 5-0. Thank you. So let's continue moving on, because we do have a pretty good agenda for this evening. Let's see. Well, it looks like we have just about everybody here. So do you think we still have to wait for 3 more minutes for 7:10, or do we want to roll into talking
I
about?
think we can roll into it, Joe.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not a formal hearing, it's just a schedule, right?
this is true. I just want to make sure that we're good with that. Okay.
I'm sure all the folks here for the appointment would rather be somewhere else ultimately.
Right. Eating.
Yeah, they all
pasta.
look like,
And
they
it's-
all look like
and, you know,
runners too.
It's not an
That's
appointment,
something.
so it's just a recognition, so we don't have to.
Recognition, right? Yeah. They're probably ready to start eating all their carbs for this weekend, getting ready to run on Monday. I haven't even looked at the forecast for Monday. Is the weather supposed to be good? My wife just yelled out to me, it's gonna snow. She's gonna be working.
I was good.
I'll tell you, if it snows, we're all in trouble. Well, I would like to introduce the Ashland Marathon team. It is with their sweat, their tears, and their sacrifice over a year, getting ready and training for the marathon, that the town of Ashland happens to be the recipients of collecting some funding that we're able to use to help provide program funding for different organizations within the town. And with that, this has been going on for a number of years, and it's greatly appreciated by everybody who are the beneficiaries of all your hard work, your sacrifice, and the pain that you probably go through when you hit the hills and coming around the corner for that last mile and a half. So it's greatly appreciated. So what I would like to do is I would like to read off all our wonderful runners on Ashland Marathon team. And I'll do it by alphabetical order, make it a little easier for everybody. So that way I know I won't skip someone. Christine Avery, Henry Baker, Marcel Brewster, Michael Brewster, Alexandra Chancellor Pitt, and if I mispronounce your name, I apologize. Christine Kavecki, Meredith Connery, Rodrigo de Lima, Cesario de Souza, Allison Gorman, Tilio Leal, Yi Lu, Maria Mariona, Lisa Masiello Gelati. I see her. She's waving already. Olga Materna, Yuli Marinosa, Daniel Morgan, Daniel Slitter, Alex Smith, Christopher Michael Smith, Ty Temple, and Raza Zayed. These are the wonderful men and women who will be running for Team Ashland for the marathon on Monday. So if you're out there, cheer them on, root them on to victory, and it's greatly appreciated for what you're doing for our community and for the many youth groups, civic groups that utilize the funding that you generate through your hard efforts. I'll open it up to the other board members to say thank you and provide support as we go along.
Mr. Chair, can I suggest that we ask if any of them want to speak a little bit about their experiences and
Sure.
what they're
I was
looking
I
forward
was
to?
going
and
to do
why
that
they're-
near the end.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to hear from them as to how things are going and what they're thinking about.
Okay.
I'm seeing a few of them shake their heads going, no.
No, you-
I want to just say pain and painful. And please pick me up off the ground if you see me.
Well, Chris, I hope that's not national because it's only a few miles from the starting line. So, I mean,
No,
if
I'm-
that's the case, we're all in trouble.
No, that could be the case, but that's okay. I'm still gonna try.
So
I-
Good luck.
how many is this the first marathon? Who's the first time runner?
First time Boston.
Very good.
First time Boston. Okay, very good. But not your
Oh.
first marathon. And so who's the senior member here of with multiple marathons on their resume?
I've run 3. I've run
Wow.
just 3 Bostons, but last year was virtual, so that really didn't count.
And Meredith
counts.
showed 2 fingers. Yeah, virtual accounts. You still had to run the mileage.
Yeah.
You didn't have all the cheering, but you still had to run.
Still probably felt the same.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't dare ask my board how many they've run. I can tell you how many I've run.
Come
It's
on.
not
Do a
three.
relay, Joe.
It's there. Yeah,
I've run a 5K, but that's about it.
good for you.
You-
So what are you thinking about for Monday?
It's gonna be beautiful out.
Rain for good weather. That's
Yeah,
good.
we're lucky. Yeah.
We're kind of sorry that we usually have a breakfast send off for you folks, but because of COVID and we didn't want to put any of you in jeopardy of not being able to run.
Did they still do the thing at the Mendez School this year? They didn't, did they?
They-
Oh, that's very.
I've been subbing down there and I did not see anybody,
They're
there
doing
wasn't
it for the kids.
anybody there.
That's good. I'm hope they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it for the kids. They're just not having spectators this year.
Okay. They're not having the guest speakers and all that stuff. Okay.
At least that's.
Maybe
what-
we can have an after marathon celebration.
There you go.
Yeah.
Then that sounds like a great idea.
The other thing I would ask, so I'm Yolanda Greaves. I do a show here in town called Around the Clock News for Ashland. We are going to be standing outside of Marathon Deli. And if as you're running by, you feel like you need a rest at that point. Now, granted, it's early on, and I was talking to someone else and they're like, as a first time runner, I'm not going to stop there. But if you feel like you want to stop and say hello, Joe and I will be there, or at least I'll be there. I'm hoping Joe will join me. And we'd love to, cheer you on and have you say hello as you're going by. So
What are
If you-
Jimmy and David, Davey, I can't talk. Dougie,
Dougie.
serving?
oh, I don't know. I think they're serving their regular stuff, but
Oh, okay.
we'll be outside Marathon.
Yeah, we won't be
How are
inside.
you guys,
basement.
just wondering, how are you guys planning to get up to the start?
Oh, we don't go to the start. We go are you talking to the other runners?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
That's a
If
great
you have the
question.
time.
The secret.
chat.
Yeah,
You should-
That's a great question.
still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
Me
I was
too.
at our Public Works Department today and they were getting prepped for the marathon and they have a whole plan in place and so on. And it's very interesting what they do and how they do it. And, there's such a mess that's made during the marathon, during the runnings, but it gets cleaned up so fast and they just do an incredible job. But they were talking about the flow of runners. Once you get past all of the elite runners, the buses are coming from Boston, letting off
Right.
their occupants, and then they're just running right from that point on. There's no staging area in Hopkinton, the way I understand it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's no runners village. There's no vendors. They're keeping it as minimal as possible. You'll be leaving Boston on your bus if you're coming from Boston to get to Hopkinton just in time for your run start time. So Maria, to your question, I would say double check with BAA as to what they recommend, that if you want to just go and not come from the Boston bus, they should be able to tell you when to get there and what time and where.
Yeah, we have the bib pickup and registration like this weekend.
Yeah,
So
and-
yeah,
yeah.
so we can ask.
Definitely
I would suggest-
participate.
I would say call the Hopkinton Police Department too and ask them for road closure information, so you can get a better understanding as to what roads are closed where, if you
Yeah.
want to get dropped off. So that's what.
Yeah.
Walking may be required.
Yeah, I
walking
live
is
by
definitely
Western
gonna be
Nursery,
required.
so I'm sure I could scoot up somehow.
Yeah, if you live by Western Nurseries, you should be able to go up like the back way, get to 85 and get dropped off somewhere there.
But
Yeah,
it's
I
a
figured if I
boundary.
could get all the way through up Howe Street, all the way to 135, I think I should be good there.
Yeah, you could do a Rosie Ruiz and just kind of hop on the course at a convenient spot.
Totally what I'm doing. Totally. I'm trying to plant scooters all along the way.
That's actually pretty brilliant.
So I take it Healy's are not accepted.
Shh. What? That's not in the rules. I'm pretty sure. I've checked.
Does anyone want to talk about how they came to make this decision and the training involved and why raise money for Ashland? Maybe a little bit about your thinking on this.
I will tell you that I've coached for Ashland for at least the last 17 years. I've had a bunch of students who have run it, student athletes. We had groups before, not COVID, for the marathon bomb. We used to have the volunteers would become from the track team. And then, is he in the background yelling? Tell him push-ups. That's it. Push-ups, Peter. See, he's one of mine.
Oh.
I have to say, what I like to see is I see a lot of names that I'm not familiar with. Henry, I just met your wife, Kristen, last night as part of the library committee. But a lot of other names and faces that I am not familiar with. So it's nice to see you all stepping up and running for Ashland. It's a nice thing to see.
Who wants to run in the back with me?
Me.
We could have an Ashland squad at the back. There we go.
I'm gonna do some walking. Just
I was going to say, if walking is allowed, then you've got me as a supporter.
All right, come on, Joe.
I just feel fortunate to have this opportunity. I think only by being an Ashland resident have I been granted this, opportunity. And I just happened to win by lottery. And I'm like, okay, I got it. So here we go.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And you consider yourself lucky?
That's what I was
winning the
saying.
lottery?
I know. We'll see. I'll let you know.
All right.
What's nice is we also have some of our runners who we do through Nord, I think it is. I see Michael Smith and Alex from Texas.
Yeah.
So you're coming from Texas. Are you ready for any kind of weather? Unmute. There you go.
Yeah. Just as long as we don't have rain. That was, the last race I finished was in New York, and it rained through the entire race, and that was just miserable. And I saw early in the week, I was looking ahead at a 10-day forecast, and it showed some rain in the chances. So fingers crossed. As long as we don't have that, the weather, not bad. The temperatures look great, especially from what we're running in Texas. Been training through this miserable heat. So it'll feel great to get up there and enjoy the weather if it doesn't rain.
Nice.
I'm curious how many of you were supposed to run last year as well, had numbers. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Did you, I know that there was one virtual. Did anyone else do the virtual option too?
Mm-mm.
No, it's just not the same, huh? Just definitely not the same.
No, I'm thinking one and done.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm with
Me
you,
too.
Maria. I am so with you.
Yeah.
It's been a long 2 years of training for
It
this one marathon.
has.
Yeah,
2
2 years.
years.
Wow.
I know.
See, I was doing this for my 50th birthday. Now I'm 51, and it's now I'm too old for this now.
Me too.
No,
Me
no,
too.
you're
That's why I
still
say
good.
that.
Number.
Yeah. Well, it's a great, it's great that this is something to check off your bucket list. I think it's fantastic. So one and done is okay.
Yes, thank you.
And the
I'm
money.
always interested in people battling injuries. If people have any good stories to tell about and how they were able to overcome and keep work. Besides Chris, that is. Anybody?
Yeah, thank you.
Does anybody know how many people put their names in for the lottery? How many
Susan
people
might know
who-
that.
Do we have any idea how many names are put in for the lottery through the BAA themselves? I think she's looking at it.
Well, there's no, it's not lottery through the BAA, right? It's through us, and then
Through us?
the one thing
Through our bibs, right?
Right. One thing I did see is that they've limited the number of runners on the course this year. And they have quite over 100,000 people doing it virtually this year. Yeah. Registered runners doing it virtually.
Is there, is there anything you folks feel we could do to support you as a team? I mean, some teams get coaching and things like that. Any thoughts on that as you get ready for the Monday?
A lot of Ben
Can I
Gay.
can I just add, Susan's been great. Susan Roby, just with the emails and updating us, we really
Right, Susan.
appreciate us.
Yeah.
And even
Yay,
just
Susan.
the email chain, keeping us, we don't email each other, but just, if we had a question, we could email it. So thank you, Susan. She's a great help.
Great, thank you.
How has the fundraising been? Has it been relatively painless for you guys? No?
I think the fundraising is more difficult than the training. I hate
Yeah,
asking.
I
people for
agree.
money.
I hate asking for money too.
Mhm.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here we
And
are.
it's probably more difficult now because of, a lot of people still, working sparingly and stuff and don't have that extra cash to,
Right.
to provide, though they would
What's
love.
the deadline to have the funds in by?
Tonight at 9 o'clock.
2 months, 2 months after the race.
2 months.
You guys are great. Everything, so, these go into a BAA fund that we have. And twice a year, we reach out to residents and groups to see if they want to participate in the BAA grant process. And so we've gotten, that's been on kind of hiatus for a while because of COVID. But thanks to all your efforts in fundraising, we'll be able to look at doing another grant cycle. And these types of funds go from everything from like supporting our Ashland Garden Club to our youth sports and library programming and a lot of things that go right back into the community. So we're super thankful to. So I know it's painful, but it's we really appreciate every dollar that you've raised on behalf of the community because it goes right back into a lot of the great stuff that we do here in Ashland. So thank you.
So a lot of you that do run and that live in Ashland, you probably experience some of the events that we have. Ashland Day be one of them, summer concert programs. So, it's some of these events don't happen without these fundings. And it's startup money and it helps out a lot of different programs. So we greatly appreciate everything that you're doing and all the pain that you go through to do this. And it's greatly appreciated. And it's not, we don't take it lightly. We greatly appreciate everything that you do. I, for one, would never-
As like a first timer and jumping in here, like for fundraising, it's manageable and it's painful, but it's manageable in terms of fundraising because a lot of the charities are, it's a very large amount of money that you need to raise. So this is, I appreciate that Ashland keeps this as a manageable amount of money to have to, raise. So that makes it easier too.
How many of you have met your fundraising goal already? Anybody?
Wow,
Oh, great,
that's awesome.
great. Okay.
Well, thank you.
You guys are
And
awesome.
I know your
Yeah.
others are working diligently to get there. And it doesn't go unappreciated for sure.
So
And-
good luck on Monday, and may the wind be at your back and the
At your
road
back.
rise up to meet your stride.
We'll be cheering you on.
Yes, we
Definitely
will.
cheering you on. And we also have a proclamation from the select board, if you don't mind. I'd like to read this for you all. It's whereas October 11th, 2021, our runners will be running the 125th Boston Marathon. And whereas they have dedicated countless hours of intense training, the preparation can only be very stressful because it requires consistency, hard work, and patience. And whereas your fundraising efforts have been challenging, but I hope, knowing that all the funds raised benefit the community and hopefully provide you a sense of pride. And whereas you have found a way to coordinate the training regime, work and family, and all the other responsibilities that you have in your life for the benefit of the residents of Ashland. And whereas October 11th, 2021, as you run the 2021 Boston Marathon, please know that as you pass through Ashland, those that are gathered along the sides of the route will truly appreciate all that you have done for us. The community will benefit from your efforts and would like to express their appreciation. So therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Ashland, do hereby proclaim Monday, October 11th, 2021 as Ashland Marathoners Day. We urge the residents to make it known their appreciation for the devotion displayed by you, the runners of the Town of Ashland. We wish you all, the runners, good health and good fortune and best of luck. So thank you on behalf of the Town of Ashland.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll find a way to get this proclamation to all of you.
Yes.
Yeah, but-
We'll get it mailed out to you so that you can hang it on your wall, right next to your marathon bib number.
It was put in the mail today with a
Ah.
little gift.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the very best.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Good luck,
everyone.
Good luck.
Thank you.
See you Monday.
Bye.
Thank
See
you.
you
See you all
Monday.
Monday.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody. I'll be at
You
the
too.
basket.
Okay, Chris, I'll be looking for you.
We'll be looking for you, Chris.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was very nice. Moving on. We already did the consent agenda, we already did that. I guess we need to talk about old business.
For old new business. or
The
new
old,
new
old,
business.
old new business, that's right, I'm sorry, old new business. The state recommendation to add another voting precinct based on the updated population data. So with that, I will turn it over to Michael.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. So at the conclusion of each decennial census, after the towns get their respective population updates, the state goes through a process known as redistricting, and the towns, cities and towns within Massachusetts go through a process of reviewing and updating their precincts. So one of the things that's under state law is that no one precinct can have more than 4,000 people, not registered voters, but 4,000 people. And after we looked at our current or our updated population figures, we saw that we would definitely be bumping up against the 4,000 figure if we maintained 5 precincts. And in fact, knowing that the UGC project has been permitted, we know that we would actually exceed that 4,000 number within that particular precinct. So the state, through its local, what's it called? They've got it's the LEDRC. So it's the Local Electoral District Review Committee, I believe it's called. Local Election District Review Commission, I should say. They recommended that the town adopt another precinct. And so through the process, they had provided a recommendation on what those precinct lines would look like. Peter Matchdak took a look at it as well to see if there were anything that was overly confusing and provided a little bit of feedback. And so we received an updated map based on that. So the recommendation that we have from the state and also through the town's clerk's office is to adopt this 6th precinct. So the process would be that tonight you would vote on either keeping 5 precincts or moving towards 6. Afterwards, we would notify the town clerk's office, who would then notify the LEDRC the next day. Eventually, we will receive electronically the voted map with the new precinct boundary lines. And again, Pete would look at this just to make sure that it's consistent and it's not necessarily confusing. We'd like to keep the precinct lines along major roads or different points of demarcation. So it wouldn't be as confusing. And then the select board would need to vote again to finalize the new map with the precinct descriptions. So there is a relationship here, though, between precincts and the redistricting process happening at the state. So after the select board does this, if the legislature decides to change lines and potentially split up Ashland into more than one legislative district, we would have the ability to go back and look at the precinct lines again and make any adjustments if necessary. But our hope is that
Can we advocate that they don't separate us? I mean, we don't have more than 20,000 people in our town. So why would, right? Like,
yeah,
can we advocate for them to not do that?
we can advocate for that. I know
Okay.
that Representative Lewis has certainly advocated that Ashland be kept whole. And so I'm hopeful that that would be the case. But just in case something did change, we would have the ability to go back and change the precinct lines again.
Yeah, Yolanda, to go to your question, just speaking to Jack a couple times recently, and he's of the same opinion that the Ashland should remain whole. You know, one of the challenges they're going to have is with Framingham,
right,
and how their lines are drawn. And you know, so I think the question for us is, you know, do we still prefer to be part of a Framingham connected district as opposed to another district? And I don't have a particular thought on that. You know, I'm not quite sure why we would want to change anything at this point if we don't have to.
Right. Right. We might just have less of Framingham as part of our district.
Yeah, it's you know,
because of their numbers.
Because of their population increase, yes.
Yeah, because they're looking at going to like 23. It was crazy what they're looking to do with their numbers, but
there's a whole calculus that goes into this.
Yeah.
And I know there's a concerted effort to get more minority representation in the legislature, consistent with some Supreme Court actions. And I know that's factoring into this as well. Just to get back, you know, to Ashland and the re-precincting, from an operational standpoint, adding a new precinct would not cost us anything in terms of equipment, because we had previously purchased additional machines to help process early voting ballots. And we had received permission to do that. So we already have the equipment. Actually, I have to give Tara and Cindy a lot of credit. They were able to get equipment at a greatly reduced price. So we shouldn't see any cost impact related to that. We will have to, of course, add additional election workers to check people into the new precinct and again, expand our process a bit. But I think everybody's had a chance to look at the maps. And again, our recommendation would be to move towards the sixth precinct.
Yeah, tell me, Michael, maybe you could summarize a little bit about the differences in the two maps. I mean, did they kind of split one larger one, or is it kind of centered towards a certain area? And then the other thing is, do we really need to create another precinct if we're not over the 4,000? What happens if we're get over the 4,000 sometime in the next 5 years or something like that? And do we really care? I mean, what's the significance of making another precinct or not?
Well, I think there's several good points to make in there, Rob. So first of all, it would give us a little bit of a buffer into that 4,000 mark if we went to the sixth precinct. And currently right now, I think the average is around 3,700 per precinct. And if we move to the sixth precinct, it would get closer to around 3,100. It's important to note, though, that just because we have that room doesn't necessarily mean that ensures that we can expand, or our population would expand to fulfill that or fill that 4,000 count limit. So I don't want anybody to get the impression that that's the case. One of the reasons why I think it would be beneficial to move to the sixth precinct is currently in precinct 2, which is at 3,881 right now. We know with UGC being permitted that is going to expand over that 4,000 limit. So, I think it would probably be more consistent with rules and regulations to go ahead and make sure that again, we expand the precincts to where that wouldn't necessarily happen. We wouldn't go over that 4,000 mark. In terms of the lines of demarcation, and that's my term for it, why don't I go ahead and show the screen?
Good idea.
A good idea, yeah.
Susan, would you be able to allow me to do screen sharing? Okay. Perfect.
Michael, as you're bringing that up, when would this become effective? Next year?
This would become effective next year.
Okay. Because as I'm looking at it, where, you know, you're going to have to notify a fair number of people that their precinct has changed. And
yeah, the good news I think about that is that we don't have multiple polling places, and we wouldn't need to add an additional polling place based on this.
Right.
But we are going to make allowances, of course, because when people check in, we would notify them, but also we'll make allowances on election day for people to, understanding that people might come in thinking they're in one precinct, and we would need to correct that.
We're not going to do any sort of notification process in general, like to inform people proactively that their precinct might have changed?
I don't think we're necessarily planning on that. We would certainly.
I think the important part is as long as people, it's the polling place hasn't changed. Everyone shows up to the high school, and then, they'll.
Right.
Yeah.
I know for my own personal perspective, years ago, I couldn't remember what precinct I was voting in for years. So.
Yeah. So we're not.
Brandy, I'm still that way. So,
we're not required to notify. That doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't. But, I think we'll certainly get the word out somehow. Do I think we're going to do a mailing or something to every household? Probably not. If we do like a general newsletter or something, maybe we could include it as part of that. But this right here is the current map with the 5 precincts. And this is the recommendation. As you can see, it keeps, it kind of pulls a little bit from precinct 1 into precinct 2. I think, precinct 4, remains relatively unchanged. We're pulling a little bit from precincts, 5 and 6 and 1 to make an additional precinct. It's really hard to explain kind of, exactly.
Unless you could do one over the other, but.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's some kind of technology that would allow us to do that. But that's our recommendation here and what the process would be.
And Michael, go ahead. I was just going to ask you, Yolanda, when do we have to make this decision by?
We must have the decision to the state by October 30th.
Okay.
But it's the sooner we can do it, the better. That being said, again, you're not voting on the final map tonight. You'd be voting on whether to do the 5 or 6 precincts. And then the LEDRC I would suspect nothing would change from what we have here. But then a final vote would need to be had by the select board at the October 20th meeting.
Okay. Good, Yolanda. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I forgot it. Sorry.
It'll bounce back.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah, just one thing, we should probably revisit the discussion that Yolanda and Steve started earlier about Ashland and the redistricting process as a whole. I think that's an important thing to talk about or keep in mind. And I know Steve was meeting with Representative Lewis. I don't know, Steve, if you have anything you wanted to impart to us about that, or.
Not really. I mean, I think, he seemed to indicate that Ashland would remain whole. I think to go to what Michael had said earlier, as far as how the state districting would change, a lot of it is politically oriented in the sense of, having more representation and separation of minority communities and so on. So I'm not sure how that would impact Framingham. And again, I'm not quite sure if there's, what the benefits are at this point, whether we get aligned with Framingham and or let's say Holliston or somebody else.
I do hear that there's consensus that all board members would like to keep Ashland as a single.
Absolutely.
District.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
Well, let's yeah, I think I agree with that, but I think we should at least talk about the pros and cons. And
Yeah.
one thing, you could end up with 2 state reps, which can be sometimes helpful. I don't know. So, we're pretty sure that being all together is the best course of action.
Well, Rob, to that point, we might end up with no state reps if we're split. Let's say Ashland gets split and gets combined with different towns. We could have representatives from towns outside of Ashland.
Yeah.
So
I
think
might-
Like we do now, right? I mean, our representative currently lives in Framingham.
But I think the reason for me why we want to keep Ashland whole is that the likelihood, there's a greater likelihood that we can have an Ashland resident serve in the State House.
Correct.
If we're split up, that decreases, I think, dramatically. So that would be my reason, Rob.
Yeah. Well, Jack represents us pretty well and lives in Framingham. So, and I'm one of the people, I was, when he first ran, I was opposing him. So, but he represents us very well and he lives in Framingham. So, I'm just kind of like playing devil's advocate here because I think it's an interesting discussion. But, I think I remember when Barbara Gray and Barbara Gardner represented us when we were part of Holliston. It wasn't the end of the world. So I don't know, but I take I take your point.
Yeah, I think it's it's called gerrymandering. So our version.
Well, it could be helpful to us though, because you have 2 people to call, 2 votes. I don't know, but you're right. Being the biggest part of the district is also very powerful too. So
Yeah.
So, if there is consensus and you do feel like as a board, you would support maintaining Ashland whole, we could certainly send a communication to our delegation and let them know that the board, supports that.
I think that's a great idea.
I do too. I'd like us to do that.
We can prepare that, and I would assume you would be okay with Joe signing that on the board's
Sure.
behalf.
Sure.
Okay, and
And
then
I have to say, I'm supportive of going to 6 precincts. I think planning for future growth is certainly better than having it thrown upon us or having to do something in a rush. I like the idea. I'm not sure about how we got there because I don't know. As I look at the 2 maps, it's a little tricky. People on one side of the street and the other side of the street are not in the same precinct in certain areas, but I'm sure the people who did this know what they're doing. So,
well, the interesting thing is, Yolanda, just that I'm not sure there's any significance to what precinct you live in, is there? Is there significance?
not right
at
now
all?
here in Ashland, right? It's
There
not like
isn't.
we have representation by the precinct, but
Right.
if
That's
we
what I
ever go
mean.
to
It's not like-
representative,
Yeah.
right, but
Well,
if we ever go to
government, right.
representative town meeting or something like that,
it'll
it
be
might make a
significant.
difference.
So I
Yeah.
think the only confusion here might be if we have multiple polling places, then
Yeah.
residents might be confused as to where to go. But since we
That
have,
would
one,
make it tough.
what difference does it make whether we
Right,
have
we're all
5
at
or
one.
6?
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Okay.
And that the figure where it says 2020 population, that figure is accurate of 18,832.
yes, that's the decennial census number.
So Ashland is growing. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt
Oh,
about it.
yeah.
But I would make a motion at this point to accept the state's recommendation of adding a sixth precinct to the town.
Second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll use a voice vote, please.
Greaves, aye.
Mitchell, I.
Here, I.
Kinsman, I.
Vignani, aye, that's 5-0.
Okay.
So,
And so I'll also prepare a communication that says the board supports keeping Ashland as a single
entity.
entity. Yes.
Yes.
In the redistricting process.
Thank you.
Okay.
And if you
All
see Representative Lewis along the roadside or at the farmer's market, you may want to have a conversation with him. With respect to that.
Yeah, I
Okay,
do want to
then-
emphasize that it is one of his main point when he is advocating with his colleagues to keep Ashland a single entity.
I know I
Yeah.
saw him at the Dragonfly Festival and we chatted and I asked about it. And I said that if we can keep Ashland in one, and he as well said that, that's what he's looking to do.
Well, it's helpful to him too, because
Right.
he has a strong base of support here. So.
Well, I could see that depending what happens in Framingham, that we lose him as our state rep because
Right.
of where he lives. Right.
Oh, that's
he's at the very northern point of our state rep district.
Hmm.
So
I think
so
they
I'm
will
thinking
gerrymander him in, though. I mean, that's my feeling. Yeah, that'll be interesting.
With,
that's crazy, but
knowing that Maria is leaving,
Yeah.
right.
and that certainly gives, I think, a little bit of room for the legislature
Right.
to
Yeah.
play with districts.
Because I think
Certainly
he
not
and
right.
Maria live
That's
very
convenient.
close to each other, but because of where it is, it's
It's
Yeah.
Framingham's all messed up.
It is.
one way
Yes.
or one.
And Carmine only has a really small little bit of Framingham, I believe.
yep. Yeah.
So, okay, great. Well, I'll prepare that.
Okay, well, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. That wasn't a difficult decision to make.
No.
Sure.
Well, I still didn't hear any great reasons not to be split up, but that's okay. We like.
Well,
being
that part of
together.
it, right. But to add another precinct, that was fairly.
Yeah.
Right. Fairly simple.
I would say you would change your tune, Rob, if you ever decide to run for state rep.
There you go. All right.
So you want to move on to the next?
Well, I'm ready to go down. We're ready to go down to discuss the open
Meeting
meeting
law
law
violation.
response.
Did we skip the police chief process? I know there was the
No.
first one under old new business.
It's not on here.
It's not on here.
Oh,
Yeah, I can give you a quick, just a
Probably
quick.
should, yeah.
Throw it on your board report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Town or under town manager report.
Okay,
So that way we don't open ourselves up.
good point. Good point. And wow, what a perfect segue, Joe.
Isn't that a great
to the
segue?
next topic?
Well done, Joe.
That
You're very welcome.
like you and Brandy set
You're
this
very
up.
welcome.
there we go.
So yes, usually we do not necessarily discuss findings of open meeting law complaints, and after the fact, we certainly discuss and vote on responses. But as the board's all aware, on September 27th, we did receive notification from the Attorney General that there were 3 allegations made of open meeting law violations. And they did find that one of those was a violation, and that was related to listing of appointments or the names of the appointments on the agenda. It's actually something that the board did not dispute when the complaint was made. So, this isn't necessarily a surprise, but I believe one of you wanted to have this on the agenda. Can't remember who. Steve, it might have been you, I believe.
Really?
Yeah. That
Come on, Steve.
on the agenda.
I don't recall. I mean, I certainly have feelings about this, and I'm willing to discuss those. I think for me, when I read this response from the AG's office, I guess the first thought I had was how many dollars did we expend on the back and forth with this particular complaint? And, is it $100? Is it $200? Is it $500? Whatever it is. But I think the thing that I find disturbing about this is that, you know, the person that submitted the complaint claims to know all the rules and claims to understand all the rules, yet he still put in a complaint after the time frame. So to me, that tells me that he either A, doesn't know the rules, or he doesn't care. And all he wants to do is cost the town money, the taxpayers money, or he just wants to continue this thread of I'm at a loss for words as to what to call it, but it just doesn't make sense from somebody that claims to know the laws, or at least he speaks about the laws all the time. And that's the disturbing thing to me. You know, it's one thing.
It's his way of disrupting.
Well, whatever it is, I don't know. But, you know, I think, you know, if there's a valid, and again, I think we all man up when we make a mistake. And I think there's things we can do better. But, you know, to this particular one just seemed to be an egregious, just disrespect for the system, in my opinion.
Well, you know, I certainly don't want to force a discussion if a discussion wasn't intended, but, you know, I will say, to your point, Steve, there are obviously things that we can do better all the time. We have an organization, and I think we have a mindset here in this organization that we're never necessarily content, and we're always striving to do better. I think when any citizen or any resident is looking at, you know, filing an action or filing a motion like this or filing some kind of allegation, I do think everybody needs to think about the costs versus the benefits of this. You know, in this situation, the board acknowledged what, at least with the one with the appointment, you know, the board acknowledged what was, you know, what the error was. And even the Attorney General's office had acknowledged also the fact that the board had made changes and had been in compliance moving forward. Again, I'm not necessarily sure what was gained by this action, and there was certainly a cost associated with it, both in terms of time and energy and money.
So that's really my point. You know, I think it's unfortunate that we have to, you know, deal with, to me, something that is we really shouldn't have. It doesn't rise to an occasion to file an open meeting law in this particular case. But you know, it's this person's right to do so. But I think it's just important to let the public know that every time this happens, it costs the town. The cash register is ringing.
Yep. Okay. So points are made.
All right. Thank you.
Would you like to move on to item number C? This is an update on the inclusionary zoning bylaw. And Brandy, I believe you wanted to update us on this because you're working with people on that.
Sure. So we have our public forum scheduled for Monday, October 18th from 7 to 8:30. It's going to be a virtual public forum on Zoom. You do need to register in advance to get the link for the meeting. And basically, you know, we are looking at, so this is the group that had worked initially on our housing production plan. It's myself, Tricia Kendall from the planning board, Steve Greenberg, and David Rosenblum from the Affordable Housing Trust. We have Ron Eskovitz from the Board of Health. And so we are working with Mapc to develop an inclusionary zoning bylaw. And this will be basically a bylaw that would require any developers in town that are planning a housing development project to have a certain percentage or other offsets to include some affordable housing. And, you know, we are always looking for public input, and this is probably the best way to get public input on this inclusionary zoning bylaw, because the thought is that we will continue to work on this bylaw and then bring this to town meeting for the spring. So so we are encouraging people to attend the public forum. We're looking at like alternatives to 40Bs, and to have the public really understand the trade-offs between encouraging affordable housing and making it also economically feasible for a developer to offer affordable housing. So, you know, it's a balance that we're going to try to strike, and we want to make sure that we have the public input on that whole process. So yeah, so we want everyone to, you know, we're going to extend invitations to definitely boards and committees that are involved with affordable housing or planning, the Zoning Board of Appeals, Select Board, Planning Board, and also the general public. We want input as well.
It's something that has been talked about for a while, so I'm sure everybody agrees it's nice to see that move forward.
Can this get put on as a special note on the website so when people come to the homepage, they can see it, especially if it's something they have to register for, so that it's not just day of, they can find it?
You're talking about the forum, Yolanda?
The forum, yeah. Yeah, so that people are aware and know
Well,
that
we
they
can
need to
certainly do
register.
We can certainly do that.
I have a flyer. I don't know, Michael, if you have it, but I can send it to Ashley or whoever would be putting that up on the homepage.
Can you get me a copy of the flyer, Brandy? I can make WACA gets it up and we can share it other places.
Yeah, Brandy, if you want to send it along to me, I'll make sure that it gets up along with, you know, some little blurb about it. Okay.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Okay.
Good.
And then Joe, may I suggest we move up the Keno monitor? Hearing?
Yes,
Because
that's
we're
not a
going
problem.
here for that.
I was gonna do that.
Okay.
Before we get into the weeds on the specific matter, I sent a letter, or I sent an email to Sheila Capone Winsland. She is the assistant director of the Mass State Lottery Commission, because this is the first time that since I've been on the board that a Keno monitor request has come into across our desk, especially where one is near the school, it abuts school property and the kids. So I sent a quick letter, and if you don't mind, let me just quickly show you the history of what I sent off to Sheila. I asked for some assistance with Mass General Law Council and the town of Ashland requesting an extension of time because we had 21 days to either allow it or say give us reasons as to why we didn't want to have the Keno monitor at that location. And I know we're running very close to the 21-day time frame. So I asked for an extension if they could provide an extension, and I asked the following questions: can the deadline be extended? What is the lottery's policy for placing Keno monitors or gambling devices such as the monitor near a school? For the record, Marathon Mobile abuts one of our elementary schools housing 6 through 8. Many of the students come in the morning for their snacks and in the afternoon for snacks. And is the applicant required to provide a detailed floor plan to the town showing where the monitor will be placed? And does the monitor need to be separate from the general store itself? Providing tables and sit down area for the monitor results. And has the applicant provided the lottery a floor plan? If they have, could we possibly receive a copy as well? In response, Sheila has advised me that they have not received the floor plan, and that they were sorry that they hadn't got back to me with any information as to what their legal counsel has provided us. So I again responded back with respect that, I appreciate them looking into the matter for this board. I met one of the new owners of Marathon Mobile, Mr. Anthony Ferenzi. He'll be taking over ownership of this location on September 29th. And Mr. Ferenzi is not the applicant requesting the monitor for the convenience store portion of the business, where this portion of the business has been under contract to another individual who is currently under a 5-year lease and has a 2-year extension on the convenience store aspect and has approximately 18 months left on the extension. Though he has though Mr. Ferenzi has no say in the request of the monitor, he's obligated under the current leasing agreement to do whatever the lottery has or will allow. And again, I appreciate your quick response to this and look forward to hearing from you soon. I got this response from Ms. Winsland late yesterday afternoon. My sincerest apologies for you not receiving the requested information. After a follow-up conversation with the members of the sales team regarding the information about the lease expiration of this location, we, the lottery, have decided to withdraw the intent to install a Keto monitor at this location. Given that the investment made with these installation is a lot, it would be prudent for the lottery to let the situation be resolved and then possibly revisit this should there still be a business selling lottery products at that location when the lease agreement has been completed. Should you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sheila Capone Winsland, again, Assistant Director of the Mass State Lottery Commission. That's what I got yesterday afternoon.
Hey, Joe, quick question for you. The correspondence from the lottery says is offering a Keto monitor to existing Keto to go agents. So that indicates to me that there's already an existing Keto monitor there?
No.
No, there's an agent.
It's called Keto to go.
Keto to go, okay.
Keto to go, and that is the machine itself. So the lottery machine that regulates the ticket sales.
Yep.
So if you have a winning ticket, you run it through the machine.
Yep.
That's what she's referring to.
Okay, all right. I'm not a gambler, so I know none of this stuff,
So I don't know if there's anybody here who wanted to speak on behalf of the location. I think, oh, I do. Hello there. Can you unmute yourself, please, and identify yourself, please? I'm sorry. You're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Can you unmute him, Joe, or no?
I don't have the ability to do that. He has, I don't know if Sue can do it or he can do it himself.
He's on his iPhone. Make sure you find the button where you can unmute yourself, sir. Yeah, we still can't hear you.
We still can't hear you. You're still muted.
Susan, can you unmute him? All I can do as co-host is ask him to unmute. I don't know if you have other abilities.
That's all I can do is ask to unmute.
So, Joe, I'm just a little
Oh, here he is.
Let him go.
Yes, listen.
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
my
you now.
voice is coming.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Actually, I have a lease for this convenience store and the gas station for 20 years. So I have 5 years lease and plus 3 more terms. And, I have already Keto to go over there and people sit down and already play Keto in my store. And this is the separate part of the store behind the counter, right side. At the left side is the walk-in cooler and the snacks and the candies or whatever the kids is coming. So, and I have the monitor already over there. He just have to connect. So lottery, he need the permission if you guys allow, because mostly places lottery, he allow 99% in the stores. All stores are already selling Keno tickets. So after the COVID time, too many customers, he request me. So then after I asked to the salesperson and she tell me, okay, I try my best, what I can do. So first I ask her, I can start over there. So she tell me, yes, you have a sitting space and you have already television. I have already fixed in the wall over there. So she just need the connection. So whatever you guys decide, so this is little help, because after the COVID is, little things, every penny is count. So I have $706,000 rent for this place. And my inside business is already 30% down, and outside business, the fuel business is 30% down. So little tough for me. So with the new owner, Mr. Anthony, I discussed with him. So he tell me I don't give you any kind of relaxation in the rent. So then after I have to do different kind of efforts in the place. So I put some kind of fruits and vegetables inside the store with the sandwiches or like that, and the new coffee setup over there. So little things I am doing for my best. So if you guys make a decision in my favor, so this is little help for the business, because the rent is big issue. $7,600 the rent for this place.
Okay, well, I guess the concern that I have is the letter that I received from the Assistant Director of the Mass State Lottery.
Yes.
Has stated that after they sat down with other members of their commission,
okay,
what they're saying is that they're going to withhold installing the excuse me. They're going to withhold installing that monitor until the contract has been expired. That's the take that I just got from that. So I don't know. You just explained to me that you have
actually
a 20-year lease. And when
yes, I have 5 plus 3 terms for 5 years more terms in the lease. So first, 5 years is complete after 2 years. And then after 5 more years, 5 more years, and 5 more years.
That's not what Mr. Ferenzi explained to me. He tells me that he explained to me, and I spoke to him in person, so it wasn't over the phone, that you currently have a 5-year lease with a 2-year extension on the convenience store. And with that, you have approximately 18 months left on that extension. He's never said anything to me about a 20-year lease and you have 3
yes.
5-year leases.
Yes.
So
yes,
I mean,
I have the terms in the lease, 5 plus 3 more 5-year terms. So
well, I think you better sit down and talk with Mr. Ferenzi on that, because I believe that,
I explained to him, because in the first meeting, I have a same lease with Mr. David. I have a same contract with the community or the mobile. So, we have the long-term contract with the gas. So it's related with the lease. So the gas company don't give us the contract without the long terms of lease. So I'm already in the same contract and the same lease with Mr. Franzi. So I explained to him.
okay. Again,
So, Joe, do you mind if I interrupt here? I'm a little confused, right? It says we're going to discuss adding a Keto monitor to Marathon Mobile. So we got this letter on September 15th, and we as a board never discussed or did anything as to whether or not we object. And I don't remember you reaching out and asking me if it was okay of you as chair to reach out to the lottery board about this. So I'm a little
I
confused
asked-
as to how you got the letter, and now they're saying they're looking to pull the monitor because of the information that you gave them. That's a little,
So here's the
I'm
deal.
not quite sure
Yolanda.
why
So-
it's gotten this
Yolanda,
far.
let me ask you a question. You were chair. If something came across your desk that you weren't aware of, would you call up and ask for some information that would make it a little bit clearer as to what we need to do?
I would reach out, I would have reached, well, I mean, yes, but
It's either
it
yes
sounds
or
like
no.
you went further than that.
No.
Well,
I
no,
did
I
go
disagree
further
with
than
that, Joe. It's not a yes or no.
Okay, Yolanda,
You
what
reached,
would you
I
like
mean,
me to do?
to me, it's, I
I'm
think you
listening.
should have, this should have been at our last meeting. And we should have discussed if as a board, we had an objection or if we had any questions on this.
Well, first of all, if you had questions, I was trying to get answers to questions from the lottery. They never get back to me. I asked specifically on my first email that I read to you, had to deal with, this is the first time placing a Keto monitor at 103 West Union Street. And I would be more than happy to send along to you the request. What legally can we do, or what does the lottery do when a request for a monitor, a Keto monitor, is going to be established or put into a location that abuts a school? Do they have any legal ramifications with respect to that? And that was the question that I posed to the lottery. I waited a week and a half. I didn't hear back. So I sent another email. Have you folks provided any information, or can you provide me any legal information that the lottery has where monitors, Keto monitors, are put next to schools? And I still haven't heard a response back from them.
Well, is it the fact that it's next to a school, or that school kids go there? Because they go to Lucky Farm too.
I understand that. This
Right,
is next to
so-
school. This is a unique location. This abuts school property.
No, I understand that.
So that was the question that I had. I was trying to be a little proactive, but apparently that's not what you wanted me to do as chair.
So the way I read this is that it's the lottery commission that makes the ultimate decision as to whether to grant a Keto monitor. And if the board had any objections to that, they have the ability, or they had the ability, to write into the lottery and state that case. It sounds like, Joe, in your correspondence with them, that they had indicated that they were going to pull the monitor for reasons other than
What I
select board
requested.
objection.
Right.
I don't have it in front of me. I don't have the correspondence in front of me.
The correspondence says the following. After a follow-up and conversation with members of the sales team regarding the information regarding the lease expiration on this location provided by Mr. Ferenzi, we have decided to withdraw the intent to install a Keto monitor at this location. Given that the investment made with these installations, it would be prudent for the lottery to let this situation be resolved and then possibly revisit this should there still be businesses selling lottery products. Should you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. And I got this yesterday afternoon.
Okay. And do we know if the owner or the applicant has received similar correspondence from the lottery letting them know that they're?
I don't know. We'd have to ask him right now. He's here.
Yeah, actually, lottery salesperson. So all the owners, he contact with the lottery salesperson, and she start the process if anybody wants. So she start the process for maybe a couple of months before I talked to her, and she tell me, okay, so not this year, in the coming years, I put you on the list, and when the Keto is available, so I start the process. So maybe she start the process, and what is the process with the lottery office and the town hall, or you guys make the decisions? Because Keto to go, he allowed last year for all stores, and now he allowed too many stores. They are close to the schools, and he allowed Keto in the stores. So they have a different policies. But I'm waiting for the decision for the lottery or you guys. So I'm not in rush. What you guys decide, so I agree with you guys. Okay.
Well, we don't say yay or nay to that. That's up to.
Yeah, I already sell lottery over there and the Keto to go, but the lots of customers he request if you start the live Keto here. So that's why I request to the salesperson. So what you guys decide, I agree with you. And, I'm not in rush. I wait for your decisions or the lottery decisions, what you make it.
Well, I don't think doesn't sound like it's our decision at this point. It sounds, and correct me if I'm misinterpreting this, but the lottery is saying that they want to get clarity on the lease situation. And then they could decide whether or not to proceed with installing a monitor. That's the way I understand it. So this has nothing to do with us at this point in time. I actually commend Joe for reaching out and getting more information, because typically something like this would come through our office and we might just file it away and not really react to it. So I don't have an issue with Joe reaching out and getting more information. Joe's not making a decision on anything. He's presenting a situation. That's the way I read it. And, so I don't take issue with that. But as far as belaboring this discussion, it seems like it's in the hands of the Lottery Commission at this point, and let them, let the applicant and the Lottery Commission resolve this, and then we can go through this whole process again if we need to.
Yeah. Okay, sir. So thank you for your time. Okay.
Okay, so you wait to hear back from the lottery. You have not yet heard from the lottery, though.
No,
Right.
I'm not in rush. What the lottery, he make the decisions and you guys make the decisions. So I'm not worried about that. Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay.
So the next item on the agenda is the just an update on the December 1st special town meeting and warrant articles. And Jen, I'm going to turn this over to you first, and then I can give a little bit more detail about one of the warrant articles.
Sure. Okay, we're just, excuse me, we're just in the process of starting putting together the actual language for the warrant for our December 1st special town meeting. The vast majority of the articles are really
Jen, hold on. Susan, can you mute the guest, because he's still there? His iPhone is still connected. I don't know if you can mute him.
So most of the articles are really routine in nature that we typically handle in our special town meeting each fall. So we'll be handling free cash allocation and authorization, and then we'll have the property tax exemption, which we always do in the fall. Excuse me. One of the things that we're looking at is potentially reauthorizing or expanding authorization for our design and engineering bond for the public safety building. So you might remember that prior to moving through the design process, we received authorization from town meeting for $3.5 million for design. We're looking just to make sure that we can extend that to use it for construction in hopes that we'll be able to move forward with putting solar panels on as part of the project. So when we went through the process, we readied the roof, particularly at the apparatus bay, for solar. And so we're hoping that as we move through the construction process, that the budget will come in such a way that we'll be able to potentially move that sooner rather than later. There's 3 CPC articles. 2 are really just extensions of time. So for the Riverwalk and the Mill Pond Park beautification, part of those projects had sort of stalled, partly due to COVID and partly due to some staffing issues around getting to particularly the Mill Pond second part to finish off our fencing. And then I wanted to look at finishing the Riverwalk for that second bridge, which will require additional engineering. So CPC voted to extend that 2 more years. So we'll just bring that forth since the sunset date was actually in the Warren article. You might remember Steve Greenberg coming to us for some funding, for funding to do some landscape architect and engineering work for Marathon Park beautification. He has done that project and presented to CPC, and they voted to support just under $100,000 for that project in hopes that they can get that done as we move forth before the marathon. This is the year that we'll do another phase. I believe it's phase 11 of the MWR, a inflow and infiltration project that we work through DPW, and that's it's a grant and loan program, and we're in our 11th phase of that. There's 2 that I'm not totally sure if we'll be able to get it done by the time the warrant needs to be posted, but one is a road acceptance of High Street Extension. And then there is the possibility of just some clarification language. It would be a zoning change. And it's really just to align the definition for kennels, dog kennels. Just there's a little bit of confusion around some of the language in the zoning as it relates to our licensing requirements at the town clerk's office. And so just really clarifying some language there. And so that shouldn't be a huge heavy lift. You just have to work through that. And then the last article is the Sustainability Committee reached out to us and asked us to put on a resolution. I'm going to ask Michael. Michael went to the meeting this week. And so maybe he can just sort of speak to it better than I can.
Yes, so the Sustainability Committee is asking town meeting, would ask the select board to put on the warrant for town meeting consideration. A resolution, and I'll try to summarize it as best as I can, which really promotes electrification throughout the Commonwealth and also gives communities the ability to utilize some tools and enforcement mechanisms and incentivizations. I don't know if that's a word, that we currently don't have. I'm not sure if people recall or are familiar with the actions that Brookline took not too long ago. They actually took action through town meeting to ban new gas connections within their town. Ultimately, that was rejected as unlawful by the Attorney General. And so one of the things that this resolution asks for is for the legislature to pass laws that would give communities the local option to deny new gas hookups and deny gas permits, and also seeks to mitigate some of the impacts that might result from that in terms of increased rates and things of that nature. So, I think, the Sustainability Committee has done a lot of homework on this. They feel like this is an important thing for town meeting to consider. And my understanding is that a lot of other communities will be considering this, if not like immediately in the future. So I think, they would like to get ahead of this.
Are you, Michael, you're talking specifically about the banning of new gas connections, that particular? Yeah. I don't know. I have some concerns about this. I think it needs to be, more fully explored.
Yeah, I misspoke, Steve. I'm sorry. Just then, what the resolution is asking for is calling on the legislature to pass laws that give communities the local option to do that.
Yeah, okay, that I understand. I did see Ash's presentation. I realize that it's advocating for that. But again, there needs to be a fuller understanding of what the implications are, and again, what the cost would be to a homeowner to go to some alternate plan or whatever. I mean, and I'm assuming that the Sustainability Committee has done their homework, as you say, and they show a path of moving away from, let's say, natural gas, and
They do. They have a general, I think a general plan that's certainly not been finalized. I believe they'll actually come to the select board
yeah,
at a meeting in the near future to give an update on that. Again, I think what the Sustainability Committee would be advocating for, and the way the process would work out, is hopefully enough communities pass resolutions like this. It would force the legislature to act, to pass laws that would, again, give the communities the ability to make those decisions on their own. And then, like that discussion, we would have that full discussion in town, not just at town meeting, as to whether or not that's the direction we want to move in, or that's an option that we want to adopt. So this isn't making the decision.
I understand that, Michael, but I think, it goes to the whole, I think, discussion about equity in environmental equity, in a sense, because not everybody can afford to put in a $40,000 heat pump system as a replacement for anything. So I think we just need to have a better understanding of how this kind of flows. And, it's one thing to give towns the ability to advocate to the legislature. It's another thing when we actually are in a situation where we're in essence banning natural gas hookups, right? So, I think we should have the Sustainability Committee in sooner rather than later at this point, just to kind of go through these things.
And I think just to say one quick thing, it's not that I wouldn't support, putting this on the warrant, but I think it's isolating a very small part of what the net zero plan is. Yeah. I don't know if Ash's presentation to town meeting would really kind of lay out more of the net zero plan, because I think it's almost like, to me, it's like putting the cart before the horse, because I think if the community understands what the Sustainability Committee has been working on and understands the importance of all the different components of it, it makes a stronger case for what action we do take. So, it's not that I'm against it. I just feel like it's just kind of a very specific ask.
Yeah, and it's very unclear where the state stands on natural gas, actually. There's still pipelines being installed. There's a lot of repair work. In fact, Rob, I sent you an article that was in the Globe. They talked about.
Oh, okay. I'll look at it.
All the you didn't. They talk about all the repair work that's being done to repair all the leakage that exists.
That's important.
So it's unclear where the state's going relative to natural gas.
Well, hopefully phasing it out. But I did want to. I was a little confused because I thought, Michael, when you started talking about the warrant article, I thought they were going to do another more specific net zero plan implementation process. I thought that was the next step. Is that?
That wasn't my understanding.
Talk about that at all?
Yeah, we talked about the net zero plan and their progress on that, and they've definitely, the plan is for them to come to the select board and give an update on where they are with that.
Yeah.
I talked to someone from the Sustainability Committee regarding the net zero plan, and their hope is to bring it to the Springtown meeting. They were not going to be ready for a special fall.
So this is kind of, all right. So this is an interim thing.
To Brandy's point, this is sort of cart before the horse. If it's part of the plan, that makes sense. So.
Well, I suppose we should give them a hearing, because I may be amenable to it, but I thought the next big, was to get the plan together, because that's a list of actions that then is endorsed and then you follow up. But I don't know, I guess they think they need to do this right away, I guess. I don't know. But
well, that's the sense that I got, is that, ideally in a perfect world, you'd want to have that plan laid out and then you would have subsequently the action steps. But I think there's maybe a sense of urgency driving this particular resolution, which makes them want to bring it to town meeting.
Remind me, what's our schedule for approving these, presumably having some detail to approve?
So we hope to close the meeting in November, or close the warrant in
So
November.
pretty short time. All right.
So
So we could have them in and talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Make a decision. Okay.
And I think they're prepared. They're prepared to do that, I believe.
I think that would be helpful because I think, you know, it's, if they can lay out their thought process, I think that would be that would be helpful for all of us.
Yeah, I'd be, you know, the way it's described right now, I'd be very hesitant to support this without, you know, more information.
So why don't we ask them to come to our next meeting, our last meeting in October?
Yeah. Like I said, I think they're prepared to do that. So I don't see why that would be an issue.
That sound good for everybody else?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So schedule time for them at our next meeting.
Okay. Would you like to move to priority projects, Mr. Chair?
Ready when you are.
Okay. Just an update on the Rail Transit District. And I just want to point out the agenda might be a little bit different and a little bit more specific than what you might be used to seeing, simply because we are trying to be a little bit more descriptive on the agendas and a little bit tighter. But United Group of Companies, I will say that Attorney Mead has been going back and forth with the attorneys with UGC to look at the agreement that was discussed, and so that should be signed soon. There's some changes that I think the board had asked for that we wanted to make sure it was implemented. You know, I don't want to get into too much specific detail just because it's executive session material at this point, but that's the update on that. And the appeal period, I believe, is still tolling. A Trolleybrook Trail update. I think it's going along. We're still on track to be completed by the end of October. You know, I've had the opportunity to go out there and take a look at the progress, and it's really remarkable. And, you know, I just, you know, I can't explain how cool I think it's going to be when it's actually done. It's got some great opportunities to view wildlife, and it's not just a transportation corridor, but it's the ability to, I think, really enjoy some natural resources. But Jen, did you want to talk about any of the specifics related to it? Just, you know, I think there's not much of a change other than what we were talking about.
Hey, Mike, before you move on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I am. The guardrail that's in front of the entryway, is that going to be removed or is that going to stay there?
You mean on the road?
On the road aspect of it, yeah, because it's kind of narrow in that one area, so I didn't know whether or not how people are going to have access, so they'd have to either ride around it or come in from the side.
Well, that intersection with Memorial Drive is going to be, I think, heavily reworked.
Okay.
In order to make that transition, I think a little bit better, including transitioning over to the multimodal path on Memorial Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. With regards to the YMCA, they are going through the process of schematic or conceptual and then schematic design, and also starting to look at cost estimates. So I plan on having a meeting with them next week and getting an update on that. That I believe that's going to be in preparation of submitting an application to the planning board for the work that they need to do. So I'll keep you apprised on that. But it's exciting. I mean, it's exciting to know that it's moving forward. I think we will start to see pretty soon some more tangible progress, I should say. Some of you might have seen surveyors out there recently, but it's certainly exciting. I think everybody's looking forward to that. And at that point, I think, we'll start doing, or they, meaning the YMCA, will start doing a little bit more community outreach and ultimately fundraising. So again, I think it's a great opportunity. are a great amenity for the town, and it's great to see the progress happening with that. And then finally, as everybody recalls, there's planned a dog park for the location. I believe there was some, I guess the committee, some members of the committee were having a few reservations about the site, but I believe that's been addressed. Jen, would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something new? Was that something new? Because I thought they were happy with that location.
I think they had some questions that came up. Some members had some questions about it and maybe some concerns that weren't raised earlier, but I believe those have been addressed
Okay.
to their satisfaction. And, conceptual design has been done. All that.
Are we going to have a report from the dog park committee to come up and give us a
Would you like a report from the dog park committee? I'm on the dog park committee.
I know that. I know that.
I don't know that them officially coming before us, is gonna, like right now, makes any sense. Their big
Okay.
thing they're pushing is fundraising to do the match as much as possible. And then I actually reported about this on our last at our last meeting in our board report, that there was some issues. There was some issues with leadership, and someone asked some questions and other people got concerned. But at our last meeting, which was the week before our last select board meeting, a decision was made by the majority of people that they were comfortable with the location, they were comfortable with the design, and they were comfortable with working with the possible restrictions because of wetlands in the 2-acre parcel.
Is there any way with respect to the wetlands that we could replicate some of that wetland at another location that we have ownership of?
I don't think we're impacting the wetlands. We're not impacting the wetlands.
We're not. Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, Joe, and we'll work with the committee to get, hopefully work with the Conservation Commission. Obviously, they have to go through all the permitting still. But we were hoping to also even just do a site walk with them to make sure that what has conceptually been presented to the Stanton grant is, workable in that location from a wetlands perspective. But
and I guess the
we wouldn't be doing any work in the wetlands.
Okay.
I guess I have a procedural question then, and I can bring us back to the committee. So it's the town building the dog park with the dog park committee, right? Because the town has to be managing it for the Stanton grant. So do you need members of the dog park to work with you to go to the Conservation Commission, or?
So Kara and the design, it will really be the designer. I mean, that's who really needs to hear it. The engineer and the designer that needs to sort of work through with the Conservation Commission. So when we met at that meeting, I think Kara was going to reach out to Megan and sort of try to schedule something. I just saw her follow-up email, and so I'm just gonna make sure that we can make that happen with Brendan.
And how will Megan's leaving us affect that in regards to timing and having an agent available?
So
if
we're
we
working
know.
on that. Yeah, we don't know yet. So we're working on that
Okay.
now. But I mean, oftentimes, the commissioners will go out for site walks for projects and can provide.
They can
obviously,
do
we're
it
not gonna provide any
themselves.
approval, but yeah, they could certainly provide a little
It
guidance.
was a Concom for 40 years without an agent, so.
Okay, so I'll move on to the downtown construction update. So I think everybody noticed that they've been doing a lot of work north of the tracks. So they're going to start moving south of the tracks and doing a little bit of work there. So I don't think you're going to see much of a difference between what we've seen over the last few weeks. I will let you know that BSC did reach out to me today, or not today, I should say, this week. About adding more funds to their construction administration or construction oversight budget, and I need to have a fuller discussion with them about that and some of the options that we may have. So I'll just leave it at that. I mean, I think everybody knows some of the financial impacts that we've talked about with this project, and I certainly don't want to exacerbate or extend those anymore. So I'll have more information about that moving forward. Public safety and
Michael,
yes.
before you before you move on, I'd like to propose that we consider under the downtown project item that we include in the future a subcategory related to the existing police and fire buildings downtown. It's fair to say that we're going to be in a new building basically within a year. And those two, that site, and we all acknowledge that that is a key parcel in downtown and has tremendous opportunity. We should start preparing for that. And I wouldn't expect we're going to have a discussion every meeting, but I think it's something that we need to put on our list as something that is coming up. It comes up pretty quickly. So I think however you foresee a process of going out to solicit ideas or public-private partnerships, or however we're going to do it, I think we should keep that on the screen here.
I would agree
with that.
Yeah, I don't think we want to keep it. I don't think we want to get caught off guard with it, especially.
I would hate for that, the buildings to become empty and then have them sit for a few years while we try to decide what we're going to do with them. Much better to get the decision made so that as they become available, we know what we're going to do with them.
Yeah.
But also sounds like an item for our retreat.
But I do have to put up on there, I do think we have to be cognizant of it. And I do think we have to kind of, move the ball forward. But I really would like to get some of these other projects done and just get those wrapped up before we really start taking on some heavy lifting with some other ones. I think we would all agree with that, but doesn't mean that we ignore this. I just kind of want to maybe set expectations and stuff. I think we'll have a lot of interested people and wanting to be a part of that conversation and helping determine that future use. So I don't think we'll have any absence of interest for sure.
Is there really going to be a future use for the Yolk police station?
Well, Joe, so, I mean, just from a procedural process and not assigning any uses to it or anything like that, we would have to go through the disposition process if we were going to sell or lease it. Obviously, if we keep it, we would have to look at the, costs associated with doing that. I'm not necessarily sure a community, like a municipality is well suited for something like that. If you look at some of the reused fire stations in the area, those are operated by nonprofits, and that would certainly be an option. But one of the things that I hear consistently for the fire station is the possibility of a restaurant or a brewery or something to that effect. And obviously that wouldn't be something that we would run. So if we had a private owner, be part of that process, again, we would have to go through the procurement process or the disposition process.
Is that go ahead, Steve.
Sounds like another committee.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. So moving on to the public safety building and public safety building committee. Looking at the 3-week look ahead, Jen, do you want to give a little bit more specifics on that?
Sure. So obviously, I mean, if people have driven by, the steel has gone up and the building sort of frame is there and they've sort of put on the roof. They're going to be for over the next few weeks. It's not going to change sort of visibly over the next several weeks because they're really working to get the geothermal wells drilled and in place. They're working on plumbing and electrical, excuse me, and they're starting to do some of the work to build up the back retaining wall in the back of that site. So, the actual structure won't change quite as drastically as it has over the last few weeks, but they'll be continuing to work very quickly. We have a pretty tight timeline on that project.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
One of the things that, I think maybe the building committee, or we're going to ask the building committee to consider is, carving off a certain amount of contingency to ensure that we can do solar panels on that building. I think that's it's certainly been, it's going to be solar ready, but I think we would all desire to see a building with solar on it. But
I think they've done a pretty good job thus far of managing the contingency. I know we've spent some, but I think it's, we still have a healthy balance in that line item.
Yeah, we do. I think, again, this would go to more like mindset. I think we want to ensure that we have that ability to put solar on. And so I think if you see like this large contingency, I think just it's human nature to kind of, oh, we've got this money to spend. But, if we do really want to use some of that to put solar on the building, then we should go ahead and budget for that, for lack of a better word.
And Michael, with respect to that, how would we do that process? Who would be the one to put that out to bid? Would it be the town, or would it be HKT or CTA?
No.
Well, Jen, do you
Go
want
ahead,
to jump in? I think there's a couple of different ways we could do it.
Yeah, so there's certainly a few ways we could do it. We would probably work with HKT and some of their subcontractors to do additional design work that's required. And so we could do that potentially in parallel, and then we would probably bid that out separately. We could talk to Vertex and CTA to see if that's something we can do, but it's a new part of the project. So
Okay.
And there's a couple of different ways you do solar. So it's a municipal facility, so we could do something that's similar to what we've done with the high school carport and the middle school and even the House Street landfill. So where we actually lease the roof space to a company like Amoresco, and we have a power purchase agreement associated with that. Or we buy the panels outright and achieve the benefits that way. With just doing some cursory research, I would prefer the latter, especially since electrification of that building is happening, and we'll definitely see higher electric costs, but a couple different ways we can do it. Just moving to the Mendez School, I just want to update everybody. So the planning board has issued their decision that has been filed with the town clerk, and as well as the Conservation Commission's order of conditions. So those have both been filed with the town clerk. So,
and the only thing I just to add on to that, or just to let people know, in terms of the tree and the grave site, as Michael alluded to, the planning board gave the school building committee some discretion. And I think I'd like, I'm not going to do it tonight for open meet, I think because it's not on the agenda, but I would like the members to start thinking about potential, what actions we think are suitable to take in terms of communicating with the school building committee about the tree and the grave site. I'll ask the chair to put it on the agenda for the next meeting. I will put together a short statement. And I would just ask people to think about that between then and now. I think we've all had a lot of experience with what's happened. I won't go back through all the details, but I think the building committee does have some discretion on what to do next. And I would like to suggest that this board should weigh in on that in a manner that at least the majority are comfortable with. And so I would ask them, I'm going to ask the chair to put that on the agenda. I don't want to blindside people with putting you on the spot right now, but something to think about and take, consider that sort of action. So I will put that out. I'll send it to the chair for inclusion for our next meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
I would, just want to add, as a member of the building committee, anything that, we discuss here, I do bring it to the meetings.
Yeah,
so
I think that's
it's
good.
not like they're working in a vacuum from other groups and other committees.
Right.
So
yeah, I never heard back from anybody on my rather specific emails, but anyway, I take your point. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Mr. Chair, would you like me to move on to Pond Street?
You're doing a great job. Go ahead.
Okay. So in terms of the Eversource work, they're going to be working on the gas line between Butterfield Drive and Market Basket. And really the hope is to get all of this gas work done by mid-October. I think that's causing a lot of the disruption that people are encountering and what they're having to endure. In terms of the road work, most of the work is still going to be focused on Algonquin Trail and some of the drainage work. That's going to be happening through the end of the year. You'll see Eversource actually go out and start to brace some of the utility poles, and the road work adjacent to Spyglass Hill is going to be really starting spring of 2022. And I just, I think this project is affecting a lot of people, not just residents, but people who use that corridor. The traffic can get pretty bad. I've been, snarled up in the, more than once myself. So just want to express my thanks and appreciation for, people being patient and, going through what they are going through. So thanks for that. And then with the Valentine project, we're still waiting for a cabling plan to secure the barn and secure it through the winter. We did get a foundation plan though to redo the foundation once it's done. One of the things I do want to bring up to the board's attention is that this site used to be the location of an orchard, fruit trees, etc. So as part of the process, we have done some site exploration utilizing Novus Engineering that did a lot of work for us for Cadillac Paint. And we did have a couple of spots that did come up with elevated levels of arsenic, which is not surprising at all. So what we're going to do is do a little bit of further exploration and see if there's any kind of remediation that would need to be required as part of this. It's only like 2 or 3 spots that we found that were really elevated levels. So I'll keep you updated and informed on that.
Yeah, that really shouldn't be, depending, Michael, on it. And Joe and Yolanda, if you recall the whole Warren Woods situation with all of the, much more extensive levels and areas of arsenic. And it really depends. We did not do any mitigation whatsoever there, except for some an oil tank that had to be remediated before we purchased the property. Otherwise, we have not done any remediation there. And it really goes to what is it being used for? If you're not going to use it for anything other than piece of land, then typically you're not going to have to remediate it. Now, I would suggest that really depends on how high the levels are of the arsenic. And Michael, I think your Novus is going to kind of zone in more and more with the areas, the specific areas.
Yes.
And then we'd be able to make a better analysis.
Yes, and Steve brings up a good point. I think, what we do with it, what DEP would require us to do with it really depends heavily on what is planned there. And so I think, or what we plan to do there. So I think, that's going to be an ongoing conversation. But again, just wanted to give you a heads up that that's what we're doing over there.
Before we move off of the subject of the Valentine estate, Steve and I are working on getting a date together for the next meeting of the restrictions working group, the subcommittee. And the date that we're kind of looking at right now is October 27th. So we will put together an agenda and post the meeting for the 27th is the current plan. So just want to let you guys know.
Good. Thanks, Brandy. Okay, Mr. Chair, should I move on just to town manager reports?
I think we're going to skip that.
Okay.
Done.
All right.
Go right ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
Okay, so the first item here is just an update on our ARPA plan in the public comment period. So that will be closing on October 15th. And so I'll be sending out a final reminder to people through newsletter and also through social media. We have seen an uptick in responses, so about 130, 140. So that's good. I'm looking forward to reviewing that with the board when we have our retreat. So that'd be great. Just an update on the new COVID testing site that we have. So we have been successful in standing up and establishing a COVID testing site at the MBTA parking lot. I really would like to thank the MBTA, DPH, as well as Senator Spilka and Representative Lewis for, in addition to Ed Berman, of course, for doing a lot of work in making this site happen. I think a lot of people have been involved. Sue, I think you had to get involved in this, in terms of insurance and, license agreements and all that good stuff. But it's great to have this just as an option for Ashland residents and people in the region. Just to let everybody know, again, the hours of it are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. We weren't able to stand it up on our original date of Monday, but we were able to do it on Tuesday. And, we've seen it being utilized. One of the things I'm really proud of with this site is that people have the ability to access it by public transportation, either the MWRTA or the train. So people who don't have vehicles have the ability to hopefully get to this site easily. Again, you're encouraged to make appointments. You don't necessarily have to have it, but you're certainly encouraged to. That helps speed up the process, including getting your results back. So again, I hope people take advantage of it. And again, thanks to everybody who worked on it to set it up.
So Michael, that's all on the town website, right? So that's the best way to do it?
Yeah, there's information on the town website. So if you are going to sign up, you have to do it through the state's website. And so we have links associated.
Okay.
Directing to
but you
that.
can find it there easily. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That's great.
And then there's one more item on the agenda. I just want to give you a couple more updates after that. So just an update on the Legacy Farm stormwater issue. You should have correspondence in your final packet that I've asked Doug to send to DEP, just notifying them of the situation. We felt it was important just to get this on their radar screen. And we're continuing to work with Hopkinton as well as the engineer for the property to develop a more really comprehensive solution, not just in terms of infrastructure, but what we're going to do in terms of ongoing operating costs if we do see an increase or a sustained increase in operating costs. So I'll keep you updated on that. And then
Michael, just to follow, so we're pretty sure that the manganese was caused by their actions, or is there any review of that? The elevated issues was due to recent work, or?
We definitely see a correlation, Rob, between when vegetation was removed and an increase in manganese and phosphorus. The old saying, correlation does not necessarily mean causation. I think there needs to be a little bit more exploration into that. But, again, if you just look at those graphs that I provided to you at the last meeting, you can definitely see a correlation there. And then the last couple of items, one, I think Yolanda had mentioned it a little bit earlier. Our library is going through its strategic planning process, which they do every 5 years. And I think what they also try to do is a one-year action plan. So I believe that the hope is that the strategic plan for the library will be finalized by the Mass Board of Library Commissioners by October of 2022. And again, there's going to be a whole process that will be followed through that. So, and then again, I believe there's one-year action plans associated with it. And then also along those lines, the Metro West 495 partnership, I'm part of the board of directors there. We're also going through the process of our 5-year plan, and we had our first meeting as a board about that today. And it's really interesting to see just how the tone of the conversation or the important points of conversation are. There was a lot of talk today about climate change and then housing and transportation. And I think that's going to be a real focus of the partnership moving forward. So I'll definitely keep you updated on that. One of the things that we talked about is in terms of climate change, and then also, different properties that might be of interest and different, potential development sites, developing a regional list. We talk a lot about a town-wide list, but I think there's an understanding that some of the impacts that we have are not just necessarily limited to the town that it is in, but also regional. It has a regional impact as well. So we're seeing that with things like legacy farms. Certainly, if you're following Holliston and the Hopping Brook project, in a budding town, Holliston as well as Medway have been involved in that. And then I think there's a recognition that especially some of the environmental impacts certainly have literal and figuratively downstream impacts to others, cities and towns. You look at just the history of Ashland, you look at the Sudbury River and some of the contamination that ended up getting into the Sudbury River ultimately ended up in Framingham. And so we had a situation not too long ago where the EPA had proposed doing a capping strategy to help continue to diminish mercury levels in the Sudbury River. And Framingham didn't want to do that. So, that in turn affected us as well. So again, it's fascinating in some ways when you can step back and just see how the conversation has changed over the years. And that's about it.
Anything on your police chief process?
Yes, so we're finalizing a contract with Commonwealth Police Services. They have identified a retired police chief that we would work directly with. That chief wanted to make sure that he didn't have any conflict of interest associated with this.
Good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Nicely done, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like we're missing something.
Why, it's too early?
Yeah.
It's really not too early.
It's not too early.
You still have board reports to do.
Yeah, I know. Short and sweet. Okay, are we ready for board reports? Okay, all right. Ladies first, Brandy.
Okay, thank you. So a couple weeks ago, I began Leadership Metro West's Leadership Academy. I'm part of the class of 2022. I am very proud to represent the town of Ashland along with Maggie Musoki from area and also Julia Chase from the Ashland Farmers Market. We are a group of 30 and representing folks from the communities, from nonprofits, from businesses, and we're going to be looking at all sorts of different issues and tackling things that impact the Metro West region. I'm looking forward to bringing some stuff back to our board and our community. In fact, at our first retreat, or at our retreat a couple weeks ago, they had introduced that they were looking at the curriculum for the Leadership Academy and sort of a little bit of a different lens, looking at it from an anti-racism lens, and that's going to be part of the curriculum. And so, I had mentioned this to Joe and to Michael. When we were starting to talk about it, I realized that there's really some more that we can do as a board to really promote anti-racism. So I'm planning to bring some materials and some thoughts for us to have a discussion at our retreat on it. I think it would be a really good discussion and a good starting point for us too. So, so that is Leadership Metro West. And the only other thing I wanted to make folks aware of is MassDOT is picking back up the Alston Multimodal project, the I-90 big project that's going to be impacting a lot of our Metro West area. And they have their next meeting on October 21st. So this is going to be something we're going to be hearing about again. I think that I had heard that they're looking for, that they're planning to have a kind of an influx of federal funds to help fund this. So I think that that's sort of what's facilitating they had pushed the pause button during COVID, and I think this is recharging. But this is the area for folks that aren't aware. This is where the Mass Pike, the commuter rail line along with Soldiers Field Road, kind of all come together in what they call the throat. And if you've ever driven into Boston, you kind of know that point where they all come together, and there's some road work that needs to happen and some fixing of the aqueduct for safety concerns. And also I think they were planning to straighten out the commuter rail and the Mass Pike too. So it's really impacting anyone that commutes from the Metro West area into Boston. So we'll be hearing more about it, but I just want to let you know that that meeting is scheduled for the 21st. So, and that's all I've got.
I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
How'd the race go?
How'd the race go? My son?
Yes. How'd he do?
He did great. So Chris Avery, who's one of our marathon runners, is my son's cross country coach. So I will be cheering extra hard for Chris because she's been battling injury. And so my son has become a runner. So maybe one day we'll be cheering on Nate for the Boston Marathon.
That's too bad. I asked about injuries and Chris was the only one willing to talk. So that was good.
He actually doesn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Nobody likes talking about injuries.
Yeah. So, but it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch my son, start his running journey. So it's been good. So.
Good for him. Miss Yolanda, you're up.
Thank you, Joe. Couple things. As was mentioned, the library strategic planning process has started, and I was invited by Mina, our library director, to be part of that. So we had our first meeting on Monday night. We had some good conversation. Jen was part of that as well and facilitated some great discussion. They will be looking to coming before us at some point, probably when the survey is ready to go up. So I'd like to invite Mina when that's available, so we can publicly help her get the word out that the survey is available, probably in a month or so. Metro West Regional Collaborative, we had a meeting at the end of September after our last meeting, but before this one, we were talking a little bit about ARPA funding. There is a lot of discussion going on at the state level. I don't know if we wanted to put something together either for just our board to the state to give them recommendations about what we'd like to see the state funding going to. Might be something we can discuss. And then the Metro West Regional Collaborative was looking at that as well. Are there programs regionally that are important that we want the state to be spending some money on? The next thing next week is the MAPC Fall Council meeting. I'm the representative for Ashland to MAPC, and they're going to be presenting their Metro Common 2050. It is their next regional plan. It is very detailed and very interesting. There is a PDF available on the website, and then there's going to be more interactive on their website. So if you're interested in looking at that, and I think when we start talking about regional things, Michael, like you were talking about, we should look at that plan and see what has been discussed for a region, the 101 cities and towns, and how can we incorporate that and or see what they're doing to tie it into our own strategic plan and what we're looking to do as a community. Because some of these things, some of these resources, some of these issues, we know doesn't just affect our little Ashland. We're impacted by what's going on in the region. So
Yolanda,
that's coming up.
I would encourage you to do a presentation on our agenda. I'd like to hear more, or if you're saying that
sure, I could,
that wouldn't work.
I could, pick some highlights of it. It's a pretty intense and lengthy plan. Yeah. They hit, you look at a strategic plan that they recommend doing in your town, there's 10 specific areas. So their strategic plan, Metro Common has that. It talks about housing and equity and climate control and arts and culture. And it's a really very, very detailed, intricate plan, but I can do a brief update.
I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that would be interesting. And
I do too.
our other option is to go to MAPC.
Yeah,
and
you
check
can
out
go
the
there.
plan.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So it will be adopted at the October 26th meeting. And then I think they'll put a really, glossy presentation up on their website.
Right.
But yeah, I'd love to give everyone an update on that.
Sure, right.
That's all I have.
You want to do it the next meeting? Or do you want more time?
I'd like to, because our next meeting is before.
20th. It's the 20th.
Yeah, our meeting is before then. So I'd like to wait until it's adopted officially.
Okay.
So maybe at our first
November?
meeting in November.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
And
Sounds
then
good.
just the last thing, good luck to our runners on Marathon Monday. This is the first time it's being held in the fall like this. So it should be interesting, and they're hoping to get it back to April next year. So yeah, that's it.
That's a quick turnaround for the
That
folks
will,
that,
yeah,
man, I don't know how they're gonna do that.
that manage it and run it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Yolanda. Mr. Shear.
Yeah,
Mr.
just
Robbins.
a couple things. One thing I did note, I saw the email that Megan is leaving us. So I just wanted to note that it's been great having her. I think, is she our first conservation agent? Did we have someone before? No, it's been a while.
No, we've had one, I think, since the early
Okay.
2000s.
Well, I'm sure we'll miss her, and I think it's thank her for all her efforts. I think it's a symptom of what we're dealing with, that of course people are moving on and going to other places, and we're dealing, I think, throughout everywhere we're dealing with labor shortages, and so I think we've been particularly hard hit, but hopefully we'll get through this one okay. Any special messages with Megan or anything you want to say, Michael, or was it totally?
No, well, I will say that Megan is one of my first hires as town manager. Megan and I had interactions while she was the assistant conservation agent in Framingham, and I was very impressed with her then. And I can remember very clearly when she came before the board and introduced herself. What we've tried to do over the years is expand that role a little bit to be not just necessarily a regulatory agent, but somebody who does programs and tries to foster an appreciation of open space and recreational lands, which she did. I remember we did some programs in the state park, and I thought, they were very, very popular. So I wish her all the best. I think, she had a multitude of reasons why she wanted to go to Weston and Sampson, which is where she went. So, she's been here for 5 years, actually almost 6.
Time goes by, doesn't it?
And it does go by. So,
so are we going to be able to replace her, do you think? What do you think in terms of any big issues there? I guess I should ask this under town manager. Boy, okay.
Yeah, so we got a couple of different vacancies. Obviously, not necessarily at certain levels. So it's always an opportunity to just kind of look at the organizational structure and see, maybe if there's opportunities to change things a little bit. That being said, you can't invent hours in the day. So, there's certainly a job that has to be done in terms of supporting the Conservation Commission. So I don't necessarily see too many issues.
Right. The only thing I wanted to mention, and my thanks go to Steve and Joe for collecting, is that we received the open space and recreation plan. I don't know if Steve, you're going to say something about it, but it reminded me how detailed it is and how much is involved. And I think, just in terms of all the discussion we've had about housing and other things in town and planning, that we do want, especially when it comes to climate change, we want to remember open space and recreational aspects. And I'm glad we're focusing on that a bit. I think we ought to consider an executive session to review some of the specific parcels that are involved and think about that and the timing on that, especially as we get faced with other projects.
Are you reading my notes?
Are
you reading my notes? For
Good thinking. Okay, maybe we talked about this. No, we didn't talk about this, but
I know.
But anyway, so I just wanted to note that, and I know, so I think that was very good, and I'm glad we're moving on this, or at least paying attention. So.
It is on my list, but I'll speak to it from a different direction. And I think I want to thank Joe for reaching out to the chair of open space and getting the plan distributed. As Rob said, is 120 some odd pages. And there's certainly a lot of meat and potatoes there. I haven't started to dig into it yet, but it speaks to so many things, and it's so connected to everything that we talk about. All of our priority projects, for the most part, are interconnected. And So I think it's something we really should have a presentation from.
I did
open
speak
space.
with Roberta on that, so.
And I think we should,
Happy to.
I think we need to, I think what we need to understand is how does this get updated sooner than every 5 years or every number of years that they do it, because I believe it's out of date at this point already. Or some of it is, not all of it, obviously.
They have been updating it, so that was good.
Yeah, so that's good. And, it's unclear to me whether in fact it has been accepted by the state, because when you go to the state website for open space and recreation plans, it says there's a whole list of the communities and the status of the communities, and it says Ashland is good through April of 2024. So I'm not quite sure what that means. Is that the old plan or is that the new plan? So, I'm sure we can get an answer on that, but tied into that, I really want to acknowledge Rob St. Germain recently received an award by the Sudbury Valley trustees. It's a Steward of the Land Award. And he got a very cool statue, very, it seems like
a statue. Wow.
A statue of prestigious.
We never got no statues. Jeez.
We've talked about the town forest committee and, like the hardest working committee in town. And he's the hardest working person on the hardest working committee. And, but it's, I think, well-deserved. And, if you've ever had an opportunity to go out in the forest with Rob for a hike, it's a treat. So congratulations to Rob.
Yeah,
and,
great.
Second thing I have, and I only have 3. Second thing is I just wanted to make note, the Ashland Farmers Market is rapidly drawing to a close for our 10th season. Our official end date is this Saturday, the 9th. But the last several years, we've added on a week, just mainly to accommodate the produce vendors who still have produce to sell. So our official is this is the 9th. Our unofficial end is on the 16th. So we have 2 more weeks of the farmer's market.
Oh,
good.
And the last thing I wanted to just put on your radar screen, just like Rob is suggesting that we consider the tree. I'd like the board to, and maybe this is for another meeting as well, but we received recently a letter from a developer who apparently is interested in the property across the street from the high school. And as you start to read about this property has what's called 43D zoning. And 43D is a priority development site expedited permitting system process. And this site was voted into existence in 2010, I believe, along with the property that's now 60 Pleasant Street, the old Gamewell building. And it's interesting, 43D is really oriented towards those kinds of parcels that need, that seem ripe for that kind of redevelopment and rebuilding. I would think that the mill building might be or could have been a 43D. I'm not quite sure how a parcel of woodlands is a priority development site. That just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not quite sure the backstory, how that was done. There were only 2 sites that were approved. One was 60 Pleasant and one was this East Union Street property. So I think it's something we should explore. Not sure what the status of this is at this point, but it seems, and I'm not suggesting, somebody owns the land, obviously they can develop it, but I don't think they need to necessarily not go through our regular planning process and all those boards and committees that that normally they're required to do. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
That's
Michael, do you know anything? Yeah, that's a great point. Michael, do you know anything about the history of this? I have no recollection of any of this stuff.
No, it's pretty, it's interesting in the fact that it's hard to find background information on it. But as Steve mentioned, 43D is usually reserved for sites like the mill site that encourages redevelopment. You know, the other site other than this piece of land that Steve is mentioning is the Gamewell site, which, you know, ultimately did not utilize 43D for its permitting, but it was designed to incentivize the redevelopment and revitalization of properties. So the fact that we have, you know, it's 10 acres, 10, 12 acres of woodland that is, has been designated as a 43D expedited permitting site is, it's, I don't know. It's interesting. Let's put it that way.
Good assignment for Peter to figure out, I guess, huh? What happened?
We'll start doing some serious research.
Well, that's my tune, Joe, so thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Couple of quick notes. MMA registration, I'm sure everybody got their invite from the MMA for the registration for their annual meeting and trade show on January 21st through the 22nd, 2022. If you plan on going, let us know so we can get you all in there that need to go. Are you guys interested in going again this year? I know some of you had some key interests in different.
I haven't read it yet. Is it still virtual?
Live.
No,
it's live.
Oh,
it's live.
Got to go into Boston.
Yes.
On a wintry January.
Yep.
Oh boy.
It'll be nice to
Okay.
get back. It'll be nice to get back.
Yeah. Last
Well,
I
you know how
remember
I feel.
going there in a blizzard, and I
Yeah,
think
it'll be
Yolanda
nice.
gave me a ride home.
Yep.
We'll take the tea in.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The other matter is that I appreciate all the work that you all have done for the town and the committees that you all represent and do the extra work for. And nobody says thank you. So I do say thank you on behalf of the town, because they don't know what you all do, what we all do when it comes to trying to do what's best for the community. Though everybody thinks they know what's best for the community, and we hear it and read it every day on social media pages, it's just one of those things. So just, you know, we have a tough backbone to generate our strength and courage to continue moving on. Lastly, we're going to have a Halloween parade this year, and everything's going to be done outside. I spoke with Sergeant Berman about the COVID requirements, and if we were to have it outside, a lot of the restrictions have been removed, so we plan on doing it. I'm tying up some loose ends with St. Cecilia's as an area where we can meet, and then we will parade down Esty Street, down Park Road, through Stone Park to the pavilion, and that's where we will hold the event, at the pavilion. So if we have some inclement weather, at least we have covering for the kids to be underneath the overhang. So that's what we're doing, and we're getting ready to
Joe,
make this happen.
what day
The
are you
20
doing that?
Yeah, the 29th. It's a Friday night. It's
Oh,
starting
okay.
at 6, Friday night at 6. I'm working on the flyer, and as soon as I have the flyer completed, I will pass it along to Ashley. She can put it on. I'll send it over to you and to Barbara to put it on WACA.
Yep.
And
Great.
we'll go from there. So just one last thing. You know, when we started talking about the public safety building and what we were going to do with the other buildings, it was pretty apparent that we were looking for additional parking spaces, and I hope that doesn't get lost in the discussion that we were going to tear down the old police building because it really wasn't worth anything to do or to give to somebody to utilize. It's a sick building, number one, and number two, it's structurally not sound to the point where it's not, to me anyway, having worked in there, I can't see anybody going there and making it a viable business location. It really isn't. So knock it down, raise it, and make some nice parking spaces there. So folks that want to utilize the downtown more have places to park, and it's right downtown. It's not away from other locations. It's right there. And I think it'll benefit the small businesses that are in town, in the downtown area. So that's my feed on that. And I hope we don't forget that insight on taking care of that. And I just looked at the weather forecast for Monday, and you're not going to believe it.
Snow.
Rain on Monday.
There's quite a few days in between now and then.
I know that.
Yeah,
I know
it'll
that.
change. I mean, I always say, what position can you have that you're wrong more than half of the time and still keep your job? I mean,
Well,
come
in
on.
my next,
These
my
weather
next life-
forecasters.
yeah, my next life, I'm coming back as a meteorologist, and I know I'm going to get paid whether I'm right or wrong. Absolutely. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those
Reeves,
in
aye.
favor?
Bishop, aye.
And with that, we will see you on the 20th. Have a good
Night,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
Night. Thank
Thank
Stay
you.
safe. Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.